not what I want to do in my business. I want to rank products and help people make money. Amazon just generally doesn't want you to win. It's very easy to run an ad on Amazon, but it's very hard to run an ad profitably. And that's exactly where Stone's Good steps in. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we have John Tilley, who is the CEO of ZonGuru. John, thanks for being here.
What's up, man? With a name like Sean Stone, I was expecting some WWE stuff going down here, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, well, don't worry. My main car is a monster truck. So
there you go.
yeah, that's how I get around town.
Canadian with a monster truck, dude. I don't know about that. That sounds good. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, sounds dangerous. Well, John, today we're going to talk about AEO, which is AI engine optimization. And I really want to get into that. But before we get into that, I would love to hear a little bit about who you are and a little bit about what you do, just so everyone knows why you're so qualified to talk about this.
Yeah, for sure. And specifically on that, we're going to be talking about as it relates to Amazon and specifically Rufus, which is, we'll get into what Rufus is and why you need to take heed of it and optimize for it. But thanks for having me on. I'm based in Los Angeles, so just up from you. And I'm originally from South Africa, but been here in LA for about 20 years. And, kind of a background in working for some pretty large ad agencies globally for quite a while before I stumbled into the world of Amazon and started my own products back in 2015. And then, followed on with starting ZonGuru as a technology company for Amazon brands and for agencies. We have well over 20 tools that you can use to really get at insights and automate processes to help you scale your business on Amazon. But specifically what we're known for is, our really deep understanding of Amazon's algorithm from an organic perspective and how to better, position your content to rank on Amazon and obviously to drive revenue and profits. That's our area of specialty and expertise. And, certainly today, it's really helping us to meet what I call Amazon's AI moment, which is this big seismic shift from its traditional A9 algorithm, which is very, keyword intent based in its structure, to the new AI algorithm, which Amazon has called Cosmo, which is really an intelligent LLM style algorithm put in place to help to meet the quality level of a conversational search platform, much like its biggest competitors like ChatGPT, Perplexity. It really has to be able to compete in that space. So we'll get into the details of that, but there's a very different way of optimizing your content and understanding of how that works. And it's we have to pull a lot of brands and sellers along to get them to see what it is. But once it kind of clicks, they are certainly very surprised by the growth that they're getting. So I think that's a really good place for us to talk about. And it's fast, it's crazy. There's power dynamics happening behind the scenes between Amazon and ChatGPT or OpenAI, I would say. And it's moving and changing every part of the day. And these are the kind of things that brands or e-commerce people love, right? Is like, how do we stay relevant? How do we seize the opportunity when there's a big change happening, right? And with change comes opportunity, and this is certainly one to take advantage of.
Absolutely. I think maybe what we should start with, because I think at this point everyone knows or has used ChatGPT at least once. The first question I have for you is, how is Cosmo different than some of the other AI models? Yeah, I'd love to start there.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a high level, as consumers, we've experienced a massive shift based on technology, right? Starting with OpenAI, ChatGPT a few years ago, where it's literally changed our kind of, research behavior, right? In terms of what we do in our research and production behavior, right? It's changed on a daily basis. And in terms of product discovery, it's massively changed how we do things today, right? Instead of the typical way of going onto Google and searching a keyword term and looking through articles, etc., we've all now probably deal with ChatGPT and similar on a daily basis, right? And you have this intelligent AI agent that is having a conversation with you that helps you to research, get recommendations, to teach you, to educate you, etc. Right? And typically the use case is or has been, you do your research there, and then you're having a great experience. You trust the recommendations you get, and then you're stopping and you're hopping over to Amazon and you're doing an intent-based keyword search. You're finding the product, you're clicking on a listing, and you hopefully converting, right? That's a use case that still happens a lot today, but that is absolutely changing. OpenAI is clearly smart enough and greedy enough to say, hey, hold on, if we're starting to own that conversational search experience, why don't we just integrate e-commerce into the back of that and just own the whole process and get commissions and everything else from that platform, right? So they've struck a deal with Shopify, they've struck a deal with Walmart, and it's just the beginning of that. But they're clearly going after this, becoming the new Amazon in this conversational search AI forward space, right? So that's what consumers are starting to experience, and they're going to be wowed by that experience as it's ongoing. And that's what also scares the shit out of Amazon, right? And so you've got Amazon going, okay, cool. So if you guys are trying to own that experience, like if we can't own the search experience, yeah, we have distribution networks and we have great pricing and we can get you stuff same day or whatever. But like if we can't own that search experience, we're going to lose a lot of market share and our business is going to start to fall apart in some ways, right? And so they have to figure that out. And so one, they can partner with ChatGPT or whatever it is. And I'm sure there is big power struggles happening on the back end, but maybe who knows, in the future there might be some kind of partnership integration, with an object. Clearly there's benefits for someone like ChatGPT to say, hey, we can give you objective results and include Amazon listings in as part of that, right? So that's TBD. But we do know that that's part of the stance they're taking is like, hey, actually, we're going to protect our backyard. We're going to block you, OpenAI, from scraping and getting and looking at our products and all that kind of stuff. We're going to try and own that IP, and then we're going to create this conversational search experience called Rufus, which is driven by this intelligent LLM algorithm called Cosmo, and we're going to try and compete with that experience, right? And so they've created Rufus, and if you go back 6 months, everyone was like, dude, Rufus sucks, it's like a terrible experience, blah, blah, blah. And there's nothing in comparison. You get like really bad recommendations. It's just a bad experience. Literally in the last few months, like that experience is massively elevated, right? And it's because they've now transitioned from this A9 archaic intent-based keyword algorithm to this new Cosmo algorithm that has the intelligence and the ability to have a knowledge graph and everything else to start to map the pathways for your product and to have an intelligent conversation and then recommend products in the right way, right? And so that's what they're onto now, and it's starting to perform, and that's what Amazon is going all in on because they don't want to lose that experience. They literally can't, and they can't drag their heels. They have to move as fast as they can. And so, there were two things that came out in November. I think Amazon said, hey, Black Friday, we have statistical evidence that showed that the normal intent keyword search, search results page funnel, that got a 20% lift in conversion over Black Friday, a few days or whatever, so Monday. For those customers that went onto Rufus and actually engaged with us, there was an 80% lift in conversion, right? And so they're just like, holy shit, like this is money for us, right? So we need to lean more into this, plus everything else I talked about. And they also said like, hey, we're expecting a projection of $10 billion in additional sales from Rufus alone, annualized for 2026, right? So they're all in on that, right? And so as a brand or an agency or an e-commerce, you're like, okay, well, if this is where search is going and the search experience is changing from this keyword thing, and obviously customers are clearly using that every single day, what do I need to do on the content side? What do I need to do to understand how to get relevancy and visibility within Rufus, this AI Cosmo engines that's there, right? And so that's a lot that I've said there, but that's kind of the comparison in layman's terms between like what's happening in the world outside of Amazon and what Amazon needs to do to be able to compete, and what does that mean for sellers?
Yeah. Okay. Have you personally used Cosmo or Rufus yet? Because the few times I have used Rufus, I haven't been impressed, but I've also been kind of like I'm a power user of Amazon. I on the platform all day, every day, so I don't really need to think about it. So I'm yet to use Rufus to make a purchase, but like this conversation we're having is making me want to buy something right now just to see. Have you personally experienced this? How have you found it? Like have you personally experienced any of
Yeah, of
the
course. I mean,
changes?
I'm in it every day, trying to understand and work with a team to reverse engineer, like, what are the things that matter, what are the factors that matter to Rufus. And just to be clear, like, the way to kind of understand it is Cosmo is the LLM style intelligent algorithm that is used to drive the conversational AI experience of Rufus. So Rufus is the AI agent in the conversation that you're having, like the ChatGPT. The Cosmo side is the algorithm that's behind it, right? Which and Cosmo, importantly, is like, it's the evolution of what A9 is. So there is definitely an intent-based keyword mapping that needs to happen with that, because people still type in keywords to find products, right? But then there's all these other pathways, which are, experiences, people researching, going like, hey, I'm going camping, up this mountain, what kind of things should I be buying, right? Like, they're typing that into Rufus. And so there's this research kind of experiential type play, which is happening more on Amazon right now. And yeah, I mean, I use Rufus all the time. And as I said, like, the quality of the experience has massively evolved, especially in the last three months, as they get more into that. And as this Cosmo algorithm takes hold, right? So, you know, I did one yesterday, kind of comparing ChatGPT to a Rufus around, saying, hey, I'm a 40-plus-year-old dude, and I'm looking at vitamin D, K12 supplements, and what does it mean, and how should I be using it, or is it good for me, blah blah, blah. And like, comparing the answers that I get out of ChatGPT and out of Rufus, and Rufus is competing, right? So it's getting up there. It's not there, and it doesn't have the well-roundedness of ChatGPT, but specific to kind of finding products, it is pretty good. So, and there's evolutions that are happening there right now, right? So, like, just recently, there's a term called RAG, right? RAG, which is basically like, it's kind of an outside influence input into your LLM, right? And so Amazon is now saying, hey, we're using RAG to help get more objective opinions for our recommendations inside of Rufus, right? So you'll see in Rufus, it'll say, hey, we're actually using these external resources, Quora, other publications, PR firms are probably starting to like prick their ears up and say, dude, we're getting more business because we need to get products into publications again, and that kind of stuff. But like, it's using outside sources, which is obviously helping it to get, a better quality. It's using reviews, Q&A, all these kind of things to drive the recommendations that are coming out of Rufus, right? It's evolving quickly. It's now got paid ads that you can start to see within it, which is pretty crazy. Placements that are being tested. It's starting to really lean more into, the mecca is as I use it understands my personal shopping behavior, my past history, my price propensity, all of the kind of things that it wants to do, and then it's going to customize the experience further. So, like, what is today and how it's going to be in 3-4 months is going to be completely different, but they are all in on it. So, the good thing is, like, it is an LLM, right? They use Claude, they use Amazon Nova, like, this is what's driving Cosmo as an algorithm. So all the learnings that we're getting around, like, how to optimize content for LLMs applies to Amazon, right? And it is a different one. We can definitely talk about, like, some of the key factors that are going into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, you sold me. Just the fact that they're so all in on this tells me that this is definitely something that is here to stay. And I think I just need to get over the hump and make my first purchase using Rufus, just so I can actually say I have experience, because I think that this is something that's probably going to see a lot of growth. So say
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, part of it is, like, sellers need to understand, like, you can engage with Rufus and you can have a full conversation. You can be on there for 5 minutes. You can eventually get a recommendation. You can click on that recommendation and you can click buy without reading anything on the search results page, anything on the listing. You can be sold before you literally click that button, right? And that's what they're saying from the 80% conversion rate lift, right? Is like, they're having a conversation and they're trusting Rufus and recommending, okay, cool, I'm educated. They're giving me options. Okay, this is the one I want. It's come back and ask me more questions. I've said yes, and now it's giving me with this recommendation. I clicked on import it, right? So, like, that is what's going to happen. But the other part is, like, hey, you can also get recommendations, and then people might then click on a few of those and still read the content on your listings before purchasing, right? So still, like, the content on your listings, the reviews, your price, all that stuff still matters for sure. And it matters for the conversion, but it also matters because that's ultimately what drives the input to get more visibility on Rufus, right? So your content on your page is absolutely king. There's a different way of doing that content now than previous.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't really think about that, but that is the fact that you can just do that, have a conversation, and completely skip the search results is so interesting to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so someone's listening to this and like, I'm bought in, John, tell me what to do, tell me how to do this. Like, where where does someone go? What, like, you talk about this and saying like, okay, great, that I'm bought in, but now I don't know what to do. Like,
Right.
what
Right.
where would you point someone like to get started?
Yeah, I mean, so a few things. We'll talk about this probably towards the end, but we actually have a Cosmo readiness report. So you can, one of the first steps is probably like, hey, let me check my listing. How well am I actually optimized for Cosmo? And let me get a scoring system on that, and let me see where the gaps are and how to improve it. So we have a free report. We'll give you the guys a link, and it's literally free. And you can just put your current ASIN in there or whatever ASINs you want, and you can check out while you optimize. So that's a good place to start. I think the second place to start is to fundamentally understand like what's different between A9 optimization and Cosmo optimization, right? And pretty the good news is actually there's a technical aspect, but if you use a partner like us, we can tell you if the technical piece is taken care of. Right? How it's evolving is like, when we back in the day, and Amazon's even, literally like shutting listings down if you're transgressing on this. But like how we used to do it is like we used to basically take a listing and treat it like an ingredient based listing and just stuff it with as many keywords as we could, exact match, broad match, phrase match, whatever it is, and wherever you position in your listing and how many conversions you get from that is one of the biggest signals that would give you rank on Amazon in the traditional search results page, right? So that's completely, while keywords are critical, none of this repetition of keywords is important. The new Cosmo algorithm is intelligent enough, and it has a knowledge graph that it can map your main keywords to the universe of keywords that are out there, right? So semantic mapping happens, right? So what it needs is like the input or the signal to say, hey, these are my main keywords, right? Certainly your main top relevant keywords and having those in your listings are important from a A9 semantic intent based mapping, right? But then outside of that, you now have this freedom to write a listing as you should, which is like, hey, I've got this space to really understand who my target audience is, communicate my points of difference, my unique positioning, communicate the emotional connection between my product and my target audience, and how can we solve problems and answer questions and talk about our accreditation and our brand story, like all of these cool things that we should have been able to do from the beginning, you can now do with your listings, as long as you have like this AI mapping behind it, right? And Amazon literally come out and said, hey, like this is the Cosmo technical mapping that you need from a knowledge graph perspective. And, as long as you're answering content in the right way, you're mapping to this content, and then we just run our, check on that, and we say, hey, you mapped, and therefore you have the best chance of getting visibility across the different pathways for people to find products through this conversational search. So keywords, experiences, recommendations, whatever those are, right? So that's important. Your content is important. Your images are, they've always been important, but now they're even more important because, you can take an image, you can drop it into AI, and it's going to read that image for you, right? So Amazon's
Mm,
Cosmo does the same thing, right? It's reading your image. So what's the narrative that you tell through your images 1 through 7 in your carousel? What copy do you have as overlays on your images? What does that say? What is your alt text that you're putting in the back? It's even going to progress to your meta, your meta descriptions, right, in your images, and kind of what LLMs look for today. There's deep, rich content that we can start to put in our images, our A+ content, right? So all of these things are just as critical. Clearly for human conversion, they're really important, but for AI readability, they're important as well, right? So it's content, it's images, and the ability to now express your brand and really communicate it so that it connects better with customers. is all the important things you need to do. Reviews are important. Q&A, on listings are important. And then these external sources around this RAG idea are important too. So, you know, it's kind of like it's your world and it's the world that we talk to e-commerce brands. It's like, Amazon is a channel, but like there's overlap between all the channels, right? And understanding, if I am on Shopify, like what are the critical things I need to do there that's going to create spillover for my Amazon channel. The same thing is like what are the articles that I need to be in to create spillover to ensure that I get more Rufus visibility, more visibility in LLMs, all that kind of stuff. So those worlds are colliding in certain ways, and you've got to be on top of that to make sure that your content maps for the opportunity now, but like where the opportunity is going, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this does present kind of a unique opportunity where suddenly we can do more. Like Amazon always felt quite restrictive to a lot of people who were selling it, especially if they'd had their own website prior to getting on Amazon. And when I think about everything you're saying, I'm thinking like, wow, okay, we may be limited with our images, like how many we can put up and that kind of thing. But suddenly we can do so much more with our images because AI can read our images. So we don't need to keyword stuff the listing because we can keyword stuff the actual images themselves. Also, image relevancy matters. Using each image and having a specific reason for each image has never been more important because it's not just for converting a shopper now, it's also for getting the AI to be aware of what it is that you're selling so that you do show up in the search results. This, if anything, the majority of the people who consume this podcast are either in US, Canada, or the UK, or like some other Western countries. And I think for them, I think this is a really big opportunity because suddenly it's like the marketers are back in the game. It used to be just who had the lowest price on Amazon, but suddenly like who is willing to actually market and put in the work to win on Amazon again, because for so long it was just like whoever had the lowest price won, and that was pretty much it. And that was quite demoralizing for a lot of people. So I'm really excited about this.
With change, the smart marketers and the smart e-commerce brand owners are going to be on it first and win with the opportunity they get with change, right? So like who's the seller out there that's going like, dude, I'm on top of Rufus right now. They've just put in, source links to content that they're looking for on other platforms. I've got a way of getting I'm using this AI process that's going to get our stuff onto these platforms. Bang, I got it there. All of a sudden, I'm getting recommended all the time. All of a sudden, I'm getting more sales. All of a sudden, I'm starting to overtake other brands, right? So like that's the opportunity that we have to be on and be able to move fast on. There's dudes going on and being like, oh, well, AI is reading your images. Cool. I'm going to like stuff 1,000 words into my image and just put it white text on white background so that you can't see it on the front end, but maybe AI can read it and great. I'm going to get more, they're testing all these kind of things, right? So like, like this is the space we're in. We've always been like Amazon sellers have traditionally been like hustlers, hackers, they're going to get out and test the stuff. And at the end of the day, obviously like good commerce wins and the brands that are following good practices are going to win. But, the guys who understand like what drives and triggers this algorithm and the shift, and at the end of the day still has a great product, and a great listing, like they're gonna kill it, right? So we already see shifts happening where brands have updated their listings and they're getting growth, and brands that have been stale with their listings for 6 months, a year are falling off, right? So now is the time, and Amazon's like going harder and harder behind it. So that whole update has to happen, and how you do that is like, obviously you can start with our free reports and you can run that and it's going to give you insights and you can update your content. You can build processes in different, AI platforms, to help you. We've done it on our side. We have a paid for service called the Cosmo Transformation Service, which, at the end of the day, what we're trying to solve for is like, how do we use AI in the best way possible to do the things that it's best at, and it's certainly not best at everything. But how do we build all these different agents to truly do some great things on your content creation, and then create an end product that meets the objectives of what we're trying to do, which is like a listing that communicates your USP in an awesome way, that connects with your customer emotionally so that you can improve that connection and human conversion. That's like selling your product, right, in the best way possible. And then obviously the final piece is mapping it for this knowledge graph on Amazon so that, you have the best opportunity for visibility. So we have a system that obviously can be used to transform that content and make sure that it gives you the best shots of being aligned with where Amazon is going, right? And I think part of it, maybe another point there is like, part of it is also like future proofing, because we don't know where it's going, right? And all of a sudden, Amazon comes out and says, "Hey, we're partnering now with OpenAI, and our listings are all going to start appearing in ChatGPT and all of these searches," right?
Yeah.
That happens if your listing is structured in the right way for the LLM on Amazon. It's structured in the right way for ChatGPT and everything else, and you're going to get more relevancy and more visibility, right? So like, if you have the right structure, LLMs are LLMs, they're going to look for the same type of thing. So it's better to get ahead of the game right now.
I mean, I haven't heard a more compelling case for building out your listing to match Rufus and match what Cosmo is looking for. This is really good. And yeah, there's going to be links in the description below for everyone. John, this is great. I feel like what am I doing tomorrow? I'm probably going to be using your tool to figure out which one of the ASINs needs to be updated soonest.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to hear back on that too. Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Well, look, yeah.
By the way, for anyone who wants to, I mean, you can go to zonguru.com and literally on the homepage, you can start the transformation service, or below that, one of the modules below that is actually that free readiness report link where you can get that. But I'll just tell the guys, I'll tell you right now what the URL is for that free readiness report. It's zonguru.link/Cosmo Ready. So one word, COSMOREADY. So you can literally go to that. I think you get 5 initial free ASINs. Just drop in whatever ones you want and check out the report. And that's a good place to start.
Yeah, that is an absolute banger. And man, I'm going to be busy. John, thank you so much for bringing your A game. I feel like we've already said it, but just in case, where can people find out more about you and everyone else?
Yeah, man, zonguru.com, start there, engage with us, and you'll meet up with the team, through the process of transforming listings. And then LinkedIn. So I think the handle is /John Tilley, JONTILLEY. And I have a bunch of content on there, and you can always connect with me there. And yeah, I would love to help people as much as possible, with this transition. And a lot of agencies are also coming in and working with us because they're like, we've got thousands of ASINs, and like, how do we stay on top of this? So it's a wild west. It never stops. You think you're on top of it, and then you're like, damn, I got to keep going. Right?
Isn't that the truth? Well,
That's
look,
right.
John, thank you so much for bringing your A game. Everyone, check out the links in the description below. And until next time.
All right. Cheers.